Good afternoon. My name is José Luís Abrantes. We are in the CMR International Conference on Multidisciplinary Research. We are in second and the last day. And in this period, after lunch, we gave two important keynote speakers. The first keynote speaker is Ferreira Fine. Fine, how are you?
I'm good, thank you very much.
How is the weather in Dublin?
Well, at least it's not raining. Although I wish I could be in this year with yourselves.
We have a lot of sun here. I hope that we can meet in Viseu soon. So I will present our keynote speaker. Dr. Biothane is the head of the Department of Computing of TU Dublin, Tallaght. TU Dublin Tallaght delivers full-time and part-time computing programs across bachelor's, master's, and PhD level, and has active partnerships with AWS, Microsoft, IBM, SAP, Google, among other companies. He is an active member at the third level computing industry forum in Ireland. He's a former member of the Irish high-level ICT academic industry foresight group, overseeing implementation of the first Irish ICT skills plan. Dr. Fine is also the coordinator of the EU-founded ACAEM Humancentered AI Masters project, which is a consortium of 10 universities, research centers, and small and medium enterprises developing a master program which ties together ethical concerns and AI technology. Dr. Fine has also advised the New Zealand TE on enhancing engagement between industry and higher education. Collaboration between higher education providers and external partners has been a theme of Dr. Fine's work. Dr. Fine has also championed the introduction of computer science in second-level education as a real initiative to introduce computational thinking to second-level students. So, Fine, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and I'll start now. We describe this as a journey from Institute of Technology to Technological University. That is our journey, and all higher education, I think all higher education institutions, all higher education delivery operations are going through a journey at the minute as we try to deal with this new world, this very new world of COVID that has made everybody deal with technology online. It has brought some great benefits, but also some great challenges. Today, we start looking at what was a small operation, a small higher education institute in Ireland, and through government policy, it's an institution that has changed through the efforts of its staff, through the reputation of its students, and through its engagement with industry. So I'm delighted to be giving this presentation. As I say, I wish I was with you in person, but the regulatory situation did not allow me to do that. Let's see now. I'm just going to move to the next slide. Okay, so a little bit on the Irish higher education sector. In the last 2 years, funding for Irish higher education increased, but the previous 10 years was a story of loss of income and cuts from the government. At the same time as we received 34% of funding reduction, we had an increase in student numbers of 23%. So it's clear that the amount of money to spend per student reduced significantly. And also we were not allowed to recruit many new staff, nor invest in capital infrastructure. So a very challenging decade, which just about finished when we got a new challenge in the form of COVID. And as with other countries, I think we're struggling with how to make higher education sustainable. In the higher education sector in Ireland, we have 53% of young adults in higher education, females, 49% males. More male students take apprenticeships. That's things like to become something like an electrician or a bricklayer. So there's less males available for higher education. Employment rates is very good, same as the OECD average, over 85%. And indeed, in our particular sector, which is in ICT and computing, the employment rates are extremely good. There's a shortage of graduates with good ICT skills. In PhD programs in Ireland, around just over 50% female students. Bachelor's programs for international students, because I suppose partly because of this English language provision and this English language environment, we have around 7% of our students are international students, and around 15% of master students and 27% of PhD students. And until the arrival of COVID, we had a 40% increase of international students. And you can see that there's a trend here between losing some money from the government. Universities have been making an effort to make up some money by providing places for international students. The Technological University of Dublin is Ireland's first technological university. It's a very new institution. It was founded on the 1st of January 2019. And it was enabled by a new law passed in 2018. The law should have passed a little bit before that, but political decisions are always difficult. And it's a formation of 3 independent institutions in Dublin. There is the Dublin Institute of Technology, which is over 100 years old, in the centre of the city on that map. And on the north of the city, there is an institution in Blanchardstown, and on the south of our city is our own college in Tala. So for the last 2 years, we've been going through an organisation design and having plenty of fun negotiating new arrangements and new structures, but continuing on with our normal business. So to become a technological university, we had some criteria. When we applied to become a technological university, we were an institute of technology. To become a technological university, we had to pass some tests. And we had to pass tests specially set up in the legislation in 2018 and also decided by the Department of Education. So some of the typical things they have, we have to have level 6 to level 10 programs. Level 6 to level 10. Level 10 in Ireland in the Qualifications Framework is a PhD, a doctorate. Level 6 is 2 years of post-secondary education, is a certificate. Level 7 is 3 years of first cycle degree. Level 8 is 4 years an honours degree, and level 9 a master's degree. Our mission is to be vocational and professionally oriented. We're not supposed to duplicate existing universities. We're supposed to support the social economic regional needs. And interestingly, specifically called out in our legislation is that we are to engage with work placement. Also, to become this technological university, 4% of our students had to be postgraduate students, masters and PhD students, and the target is for that to rise to 7%. And 30% of our students had to be lifelong learning students. A lifelong learning student is not a standard student. A lifelong learning student is somebody who's working and taking a course at the same time, or somebody who's come back from an older age. There's also a requirement for our staff, for our academic staff. We've had to have 90% of our academic staff have master's qualification and 45% PhD qualification. Now, I haven't looked at the details for Polytech in Portugal, but I imagine you had a similar challenge to us, because we started off as an Institute of Technology, very similar to a Polytech. And when we recruited people at the very start, we were looking to have people who had industry experience, and we weren't so keen on research experience. But now they've become a technological university. And in the modern world, where knowledge changes so rapidly and where technology changes so rapidly, there's a premium being put on the ability to develop new ideas and to do some research, okay? So those numbers aren't the same numbers as you would see in a traditional university. Traditional university would be nearly all PhD, but those are the numbers that were presented to us as a target. I've described this as a journey, but actually I'm showing you the destination, okay? So the destination is where we are today. Of course, we are only starting our journey now as a technological university. Today, we have 28,500 students. We're part of a bigger operation, 38% science, technology, engineering, mathematics, 23% business and law. We have 3,300 international students. And by combining the three smaller institutions, we've become Ireland's largest source of computing ICT graduates. And we have 3 campuses. So that's the destination. It was really easy to get there from 3 small institutes. It took a lot of work by a lot of very committed people, very engaged people. I very much like the staff that I'm sure we're speaking to in Visio. We're fortunate in Dublin, in the location in Dublin. We have 8 out of the 10 global software companies, 9 out of the 10 top 10 US technology companies, 4 out of the top 5 IT services companies, and the top 3 global enterprise software companies. So we're fortunate to have a global technology hub. But you know, it's been very interesting under COVID, and I have some friends and colleagues and family who work in the computing industry in Dublin. And now they're finding that people can work not only from their apartment in Dublin, but they can work from their apartment in France, or their apartment in Portugal, or their apartment in anywhere in the world almost, and keep their job going. That could be based in Dublin or could be based anywhere. So it's an interesting time. This COVID will make a new challenge for technology hubs. Let's go back to the start. So the start for our, before we became this Technological University of Dublin, we were Institute of Technology Tallaght, a regional technical college founded in 1992. We were the first one since 1970. In 1970, a number of these colleges were founded in Ireland to try and attract industry to Ireland, to try and to provide graduates with technical skills, as opposed to classic university graduates, classic academic graduates. These wanted to be technical scientists, technical engineers, technicians for working in industry. We had 2, 3, and 4-year programs. We had just a School of Engineering, a School of Business, and a School of Science. We had some research programs at the very start, because when you recruit scientists in science, the standard qualification is probably a PhD if you're looking at an academic. It's classic that you will find a lot of PhDs being recruited now, because there's a tradition of doing PhD. In computing and ICT, not so much so, actually. In computing and ICT, what we find is our students, our very best students, want to go out and work as a software developer, or as an IT operations person, or as a cybersecurity person. They want to experience that world of work very early on. In science, a lot of new knowledge is generated in university labs. In computing and ICT, it's quite different, because your Google, your Facebook, your Microsoft, your IBM, they all create new knowledge in their actual operations. Computing is a growing field. So there's variations across where the research can happen. We also, at the very start of this journey, the engineering school had a very good outreach with Intel. And Intel, the chip manufacturer, the CPU manufacturer, has a very significant base in Ireland, which started around the same time as this college was founded. So there was a good collaboration there. We were good at delivering courses. We were good at understanding courses. But now we found that there's pressure on us to change how we were delivering. Why should we deliver? We're delivering good courses. Why should we change? Well, first of all, national policy. In 1992, national policy had worked out that delivering technical skills is great, but the technical skills need to be constantly updated. Technology is not something that stands still. If you look at ancient Greek or ancient or Latin or something like this, the technology is not so fast changing, but when you're delivering in the technological world, things change. Ireland also was competing for foreign direct investment, like every country, I suppose. Everyone was competing for foreign direct investment, and it's very useful to be able to say to a large company saying, yes, we can provide the graduates with the skills you need. Also, the government had looked around and it said, it's good to get this foreign direct investment, but companies can come here, set up for 20 years, use the tax breaks, and then they can leave and go somewhere cheaper. If it's only our labour they want, they can leave and go somewhere cheaper. So the government wanted a more entrepreneurial culture, and it wanted more research and development. It wanted more companies coming from abroad to do higher order things in Ireland so that they could leave a tradition and a knowledge in Ireland and not just leave with a tax break. And of course, the other driver for us from external is being part of the European Union. Our staff were visiting other universities and other colleges. They were seeing very good ideas and they're saying, I think we can do that. I can't see any reason why we can't do that good idea. That was the external drivers. And then for our own department and for our own college, because sometimes delivering and working in third level is a tough job. You have a lot to do. Okay, you have corrections, you have new courses, you have new notes, you have students who are going missing that have to be chased and things like this. Well, why would we change? Well, first of all, we believed strongly in the mission of providing graduates to enable industry and business. We see ourselves as a very valuable part of the Irish economy. Let's provide those good graduates. Let's get good jobs for people from our area. Let's get good standard of life. We also had some very, very talented students, and we could see that if we could add some industry and some entrepreneurial aspects to our programs, those talented students could take more opportunities, could go even further because of the good start they get. Some of our academic staff have very strong ambitions as well. They like doing research, they like engaging with industry, they enjoy that. And also, I've mentioned already, the Erasmus, we can see the value of technological higher education in the UK and in Germany and France and in Portugal and in Spain and every country. So there is a drive not to stand still, but a drive to change and to keep up to date. So in our department, we sat down, and I'm going back a long way here, going back to 2005, was a very particular time when we agreed what our philosophy and what our strategy would be. At that time, we had suffered badly, okay? Computing courses were very popular in the 1990s, the dot-com boom, loads of money, people were, if you could recruit 3 or 4 staff, you might get a small car as your reward from the company because programmers were in short supply. But then there was the dot-com crash. Computing became very unpopular. We went to a very small number of students. We had weak demand for our courses. And when we reviewed, after all those good times of having loads of students want to do computing, we realized we hadn't got enough research active and we had few industry connections. We had poor throughput from our programs as well, because when programs become unpopular, the stronger students go other places. So we did know that we had excellent staff and we did know we had excellent graduates. We could see how well they were doing. So how do we respond to that challenge? Our response as a group was to come together and say, what are we going to do about this? and we identified from ourselves our strategic objectives. We looked at what we wanted to do. We looked at what we could do. We also looked at where we were likely to get some money or some resources from the government. So we decided, one, to develop a lifelong learning program. That's for evening students. We used to have one of those. It had fallen away under the dot-com crash, but we now felt that there was very definitely upskilling opportunities in industry. We said there was a good opportunity to develop a master's program, and also we had focused on software developers and we wanted to develop a second specialization. We also decided that we would address those weaknesses we had identified. We'd improve industry engagement, we'd make our research more strategic, and we'd find ways to address weaknesses. So that's good and very positive. The most important thing and the most important point I want to make for anybody today is culture. And there's a well-known phrase in business: culture eats strategy for breakfast. You can have all the strategy you like. You can agree a great strategy. You need the people to buy into that strategy. You need the staff to be on board with that strategy. If the staff are on board, something can happen. If the staff aren't on board, you're going to be in trouble. If the academic staff don't engage, so you're going to be in trouble. I've included a quote here, and it's somebody giving out about the younger generation, and it's something that we do as academics, as lecturers. We worry about the younger generation. They haven't learned from proper textbooks. They don't use a pen and paper anymore to do lots of things. But that quote, worrying about the younger generation, some of you will recognize it, comes from Socrates. So mankind has been worrying about the younger generation for many, many years. However, on the other hand, if we find a common cause, we can move mountains. And you know, in a college, in a full college, if we sign up for in a good way, we can achieve a lot. So the common cause we found was that we wanted our students to have a good experience and to make a bridge for them into industry. We picked a bad time to do a strategic plan because, as we said at the start of this program, the government ran very short of money at these times. There was a crash, a financial crash, so the government ran short of money. So there's a well-known Irish phrase at the top of that: live horse and you will get grass. Sometimes you have to start doing something even though you haven't many resources. And then when you start doing it successfully, you will attract resources. Okay, so that's what we had to do for some of our plans, because there was no money within the country to pay for extra things. So the strongest resource is the academic staff in your department, in your college. For us, the big goal was, if we can engage more with industry, more with research, more with entrepreneurship, our students will get a better bridge. We'll have better connections. They'll get a better bridge into employment. So that was something that everyone could sign into, whether they wanted to be a researcher, whether they wanted to be involved in placement, whether they wanted to be involved in an academy, whether they wanted to get involved with startups or advising startups. All of those missions contribute towards helping the experience for students. So as I say there, it was expressed in different ways. Some people went for research, some people went for innovation, some people focused on work placement, bringing work placement into our programs and making those contacts. We also created some technical academies, or we adopted some technical academies. In research, we developed a research strategy. We said, okay, we've had individual researchers, but we've not been successful in getting funding. We identified our areas of strength and we looked for partnerships. We took formal and informal feedback on our graduate applications. We took our applications around. A few people said, what's wrong with these applications? Why aren't they getting funded? We heard some hard words and some very good criticism and some very sensible criticism. Make better applications and show a better track record and build slowly some things onto your track record, and then you'll get success. And that's been true. We've more successful in recent years with research funding. We've a steady output of research master students, and we have a number of PhD students who've graduated, and we have a number more in the pipeline. So we're happy that. We also have 2 research groups working in the department, one of which is long-established social media analysis research group, does text analysis and things like that. And we also have a computer science education research group, which has become very active and actually quite well known within Ireland and is doing some good international work as well. On innovation, we engaged with our Synergy Centre, and we were lucky that on our campus we have a centre that engages with research. And we got an on-campus incubation centre. So we've gone over and we advise some of the entrepreneurs on their ideas if they're suitable. And we've also done some innovation voucher work. We've done engaged students to do some prototyping work for small companies and startups. And we have an MSc in applied computing. So the MSc in applied computing is for people working on a job who wants an MSc and wants to use their work as part of that MSc. How do you make friends with industry partners? That was our next thing. Doesn't happen overnight. We resolved to engage with industry. We started our placement program in 2007. We started engagement with partners. Their first early successes were with IBM. Our second successes were with SAP. Now we place around 100 students every year into 6-month placements in companies, but that built up from 15 the first year. We place them in ICT departments and in software companies. With IBM, our final year students, we have 4 or 5 every year taking on an IBM project. They work with an IBM mentor. They visit IBM every fortnight. It's a brilliant experience for them and makes them highly employable. With SAP, what we found the trick with SAP was SAP originally, the profile of our students didn't match what they wanted. So we knew that they had our graduates working there. So we knew that really they did, but SAP had certain barriers around the leaving certificate, the second level education. So we signed up for their academy, we went to meetings, we networked with them, and we found now that we have established a good relationship and they understand better the value our students can bring. We also did a graduate conversion program. The graduate conversion program is students from business or students from other fields who want to get into IT. In the financial crisis of 2010, you can see there are some numbers. There was a huge increase in unemployment, 23% of which were third level graduates. So we put together a program. There was a national call to put together a program to address these types of questions. We put together a response with 7 other colleges, and we put together a graduate conversion program. We linked up with Microsoft, and through Microsoft, we linked up with 40 partners. And we were able to provide a program that would give students intensive ICT education plus the 6-month placement. And a very significant number of those students went into employment afterwards. 83% from the Tala computing program went into employment afterwards. So that was another significant. Now we have IBM, now we have SAP, now we have Microsoft. We also developed industry master's programs because we were developing a reputation for delivering things that companies wanted rather than a reputation for doing what we wanted and asking the students, the companies to take it on. We were listening to companies and engaging with them. So we have an MSc in Applied IT Architecture running with Technology Ireland SkillNet and the Irish Computer Society and the International Association of Software Architects. I'm going to go quickly because I recognize time is moving along quickly. So very strong output from the graduate conversion program. And our latest engagement is now with Amazon AWS. And Amazon AWS have a very broad engagement with us. They have community data center program. They have an academic academy. They have an educate program where we've managed to win a gold medal in the World Skills Competition. They give us some money for a family tech day, and they've linked up with us and the hospital to do a healthcare hackathon. So a lot of very good engagements there. I could mention that we also have this Masters in Human-Centered AI. That's through our engagement with Amazon as well. Amazon set us up with some European partners, all of whom use Amazon technologies and all of whom actually are excellent. And we've put together a very good application that's been funded by the European Union for human-centric and ethical AI. Last slide, sorry, slightly running over time and apologize for that. Our advice is just to constantly engage with partners. Attend networking events. Don't expect your first attempts to work. Build on small successes to big successes. Get a track record for achieving things. There are many people who want students to have success. They're working in industry. They were students themselves. Identify those people and work with them. Stick with an action until it's completed. Horses for courses means some people like doing research, some people like doing that. Get the right person engaged on the right project and it works well. You'll never finish, but it's a great journey. You never get to your destination, but you know, life is more interesting that way. So I apologize for a quick finish on that, but I'll stop now. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Thank you, Barry. Did you finish?
Yes.
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 Sorry.
We're finished now. If that's okay.
Okay. So we don't have. Thank you for your presentation. It was very interesting. We don't have questions from the audience. However, I have one question to you. How how your university and your department lead with the entrepreneurship of the students? Do you have an idea how many students develop their own companies when they finish those grades, or do you think that they prefer to work with those organizations like Google, Microsoft, and the other ones?
There are different types of students. So a small number every year want to have a startup. Okay. What we do in part of our program, in year 3 of our program, we have a module on innovation and entrepreneurship, where we explain to those students how to make a business plan, how to get set up on how to identify ideas and things like this. We also have a competition, and it's a funded competition by the local authority, where you can win 1,000 or 2,000 euros for producing a nice business idea. So this is attractive to some students. So those students who are interested, a small number have set up their own enterprises straight away. Most go out and work for 2, 3, 4 years, and then they think about setting up their own business, because there is a culture of some people who take into IT to make not just 50,000 euros every year, but to make 1 million or 2 million or 3 million. And actually, some of our students have successfully launched really big companies. Okay, one of our students was involved with a company you may have heard of called SoundCloud. Another one was involved with a mental health care practice over Silver Cloud Health, which has done very well. So ICT attracts all types.
Thank you very much, Barry. So I want to say thank you. It was very interesting. And now my technical support tell me that we must cut our connection, our Zoom connection with you. So thank you very much. We have now another keynote speaker. Thank you. So our technical support is connecting with the second keynote speaker of this afternoon. That is Lucia Ferreira. I don't know if the connection is completed.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Thank you. So, thank you for be our keynote speaker of this session. Thank you very much. So I will present Lucia Ferreira. Lucia Ferreira is a research engineer at Biothane. Her path started with decision to study biotechnology at the Universidade de Aveiro in the Portuguese Windy City. Upon graduating, her interest towards environmental biotechnology cultivated in her university years led to the decision to move and tackle a PhD in bioprocess engineering, this time in the land of the croissants and chocolatines. In Toulouse, France, was the destination, INSA. During that time, her interest in applied research in wastewater treatment got full, and decision to make it a career was easy. It was moving north toward Delft in the Netherlands that she found Biothane, a business unity of Veolia Water Technologies, and she became a research engineer. Working in the field of anaerobic treatment of industrial wastewaters, she is in charge of research and commercial projects and has the opportunity to overcome the challenges of both lab and industrial scale projects. This includes development of new technologies and the optimization of existing systems, as well as the validation for full-scale designs. Therefore, she is looking forward to the opportunity of presenting Biothane's technology and sharing the research and development activities. So, thank you very much to be with us today, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the introduction. And first of all, I would like to thank CZ for inviting me to give this talk. It really is a shame that it's not possible for me to come in person. I'm talking from the Netherlands, from Delft, but I'm actually from Viseu, and I was looking forward to the opportunity to get home for a few days, see my family and my friends, but it's okay. I'll wait for summer and for my summer holidays. So actually today, I'm gonna talk to you and I'm gonna share you a sneak peek of a topic that I'm very passionate about and that I'm so fortunate to have the opportunity to work on every day. I think you may have guessed it from the title of the talk. So I'm going to talk about resources, and in particular, one resource that it's often completely overlooked and even forgotten as a resource, wastewater. So all of us, human beings, through our daily activities, we could say, if the world could talk, the environment could talk, we are resource users. We need water and food for our survival, basic. We do enjoy having a roof over our heads and also having heating in our homes, quite handy. We also enjoy the pleasures of our modern life, the access to all these different commodities, just having a car to go everywhere, travel using the plane. But all this comes with a cost, and it comes in the cost in the form of waste production in its numerous forms, different types of wastes, but also in the form of shortage of resources. If we think about industrialization in the 19th century, it completely revolutionized people's lives and the way they lived. So the way we live and the way we face the world and the opportunities we have. However, ever since that time, the chemicals, the polymers, the fuels that we use, they are mainly produced from fossil resources, petroleum, natural gas, and coal. But these resources are not sustainable. And this leads to a significant number of environmental and economical concerns. So with this in mind, there have been major efforts been carried out towards establishing solutions to promote sustainable development. So one of the current approaches that you may have heard of is biorefinery. So this approach is the progressive transition to an economy that is based on using as a feedstock, as a raw material, renewable materials, biomass, for the production of bio-based products within this concept. So one raw material, bio-based, to produce different products. This biorefinery concept can be defined as the facility that integrates biomass conversion processes and its equipment in order to produce fuels, power, and chemicals from biomass. This biorefinery concept is very similar to today's petroleum refineries, where they produce multiple fuels and different products from petroleum. Within the concept of biorefinery and introducing the concept of circular economy, the wastewater treatment plant, you can see here one of them, you can see that it is included in this concept and it has a vital role. So if we focus on this part here of the wastewater treatment plant, we could consider a similar approach of biorefinery based on biomass for the production of different products. We could apply it to the wastewater treatment plants. With this approach, we could recover the value present in the wastewater itself, but also by treating this wastewater, we could treat it in ways that we could simultaneously treat the water and have added value, produce compounds. We could produce different chemical compounds. I mean, bacteria and microorganisms in general, their diversity is amazing and they have so many possibilities that we just need to understand how can we operate a system, a biological system, in order to get the compound that we need. Okay, I'm making it sound a little bit easier than it is, but it's possible. For example, they have numerous studies on using wastewaters, so treating wastewaters and simultaneously having microorganisms for the production of bioplastics, just to give you an idea. So also in this idea of the wastewater treatment plants, we can also think of energy. If we use a certain type of processes, we can produce energy. So what we want to do ultimately with these wastewater treatment plants and having the idea of this circular economy and biorefinery, so if we have to treat a wastewater directly from a factory, if we have added value, if we produce energy, if we produce certain compounds or so that could be integrated into the factory itself or in its vicinity, then we could have local applications. And this way, we contribute to the implementation of circular economy and sustainable development. This approach has been the focus of numerous studies in academia. Really go ahead and dig in. You'll find more literature than you can imagine. But it's also one of the current objectives of major wastewater treatment companies. For example, Veolia and its subsidiaries, like for example, Biothane. At Biothane, we really look at wastewater treatment not only as essential for the wastewater treatment, we need to treat that water, but we also look at it as a resource. And specifically in the type of technology that we use, it is a potential source of energy. And that's what I want to share with you today. So, okay, first things first, who is Biothane? So Biothane is a company that was actually created over 40 years ago here in the Netherlands. and specialized in anaerobic treatment of industrial wastewaters. In 2008, Biothane was acquired by the Veolia Group, and now Biothane is the technological center for anaerobic wastewater treatment of the entire Veolia Group. We design and build plants across the globe. We have over 650 references in 62 countries worldwide, and 11 technologies with international patents. It is worth mentioning that ever since Biothane was first started and created and actually became a company, Biothane always had, and it continues to have, a very strong focus in research, innovation, development. Our purpose at Biothane is to develop and implement sustainable solutions for our clients with a focus on water reuse, production, and its recovery, and recovery of renewable energies and valorization of wastes into products. Okay, so now you could be thinking, okay, we get it. Biothane, subsidiary of Veolia, and they work in anaerobic treatment, but what is anaerobic treatment? The principle behind anaerobic treatment, anaerobic digestion, methanization, several names to call it. So the principle is the use of microorganisms, anaerobic microorganisms, to convert organic pollutants, so organic matter present in the wastewaters, into biogas. And this happens in an environment without oxygen. The organic pollutants present in the water, which we quantify in the form of COD, they are removed from the water via this process and converted into biogas. Biogas is methane and carbon dioxide. This methane and this biogas is very interesting because it can be upgraded, and from it we can upgrade it to electricity, heat, and also biomethane. So a gas composed mainly of methane. And this biomethane can serve as a natural gas substitute. So actually it can be injected directly into the natural gas grid, or it can also serve as a green fuel for vehicles. Historically speaking, the aerobic treatment is a more conventional system. Just like the name says, aerobic, it means that it needs oxygen. So, okay, this means that for this particular type of treatment, we need to aerate the system, and there's a cost associated with that. It's not the most efficient thermodynamically, let's say, or even in terms of costs. It's not the most efficient system, because if we take, for example, we feed our system, we want to treat 100 kilograms of COD. Almost half of it is heat loss. And there is a big fraction of that, those organic materials that are converted into new biomass, so new microorganisms. And this is what we call sludge, and it's a surplus of sludge. And this surplus of sludge usually needs to be disposed of. Again, a cost associated with it. Or you can send it to an anaerobic digester to have it converted into biogas. So comparing the two options, we can see that in anaerobic systems, we need to provide aeration, and it produces a higher amount of sludge that we need to dispose of. Because in an anaerobic system, with the same amount of COD fed into the system, only 5% is converted into new biomass. But this new biomass, we do not consider it as a waste, but actually it's a very good, for example, this form of biomass, these granules, we can store them for a long period of time. And indeed, you can actually sell your surplus of biomass, if the activity is good, for new plants that are starting up. They need to start with something so you can sell it to them. And of course, biogas. You can send it to your boiler to have production of heat, or you can upgrade it and have it sent to the grid, for example. So anaerobic solutions, they provide less energy consumption, less electricity, less sludge production, and actually this sludge is valuable. The biogas production is valuable, less footprint, because generally these anaerobic treatment plants, the tanks, the size of tanks required is much smaller if you want to compare it to what would be in terms of an aerobic system. And it really is a true green solution. So here I show you a portfolio of biothane technologies for both anaerobic treatments with the labels in blue and the biogas upgrades. In order to select the best technology for a particular case, we develop design studies to roadmap treatment routes for sustainable treatment of the processed effluents. With this, we really aim to optimize energy production and close the water cycles. These studies, we base them in the 40 years of experience that the company has gathered, and also by lab tests via our laboratory and our research facilities here in Delft. In this slide here, you can see the distribution of our 650 references in terms of technologies in the first graph and industrial sector. So you can see that initially, and I will tell you, so biothane, the first technology was the biothane UASB. So it actually makes sense that this is one of the majority of our references. But I told you earlier that R&D was always very present in biothane. And you can see it in this graph. Actually, over time, new technologies were introduced in the market, considering the needs of the clients, the changes in discharge limits, and so on. So after the UASB, we had another granular system, the EGSB. And in the last years, we developed flocculant systems, biobulk and membrane, and recently the technologies for the biogas upgrades, namely sulfothane and memgas. And these references, as I said, they're present in worldwide and in a wide range of industries as well. We're in food, fermentation, chemical, breweries, pharma, pulp and paper, and many others. And yes, we do have references in Portugal as well. So now that I've shown you why at biothane we consider wastewater not as a waste that you need to get rid of, or that is only a hassle that you want to forget, but actually as a source, as a resource. So now I want to give you two different examples of applications of our technologies that are actually two of our references as well. So in the first one, the target was to treat the wastewater, of course, that's obvious, but also to produce biogas that could be integrated into the grid, the gas natural grid. So for that, we have a first anaerobic reactor, our BioBet EGSB, and then two systems for the upgrade of the biogas, sulfothane, and for the removal of H2S and memgas, to get really to those requirements of the composition of the gas that you can introduce into the grid. So our client is a French client, and they produce fruit-based functional ingredients for bakery, biscuits, pastries, cereal, ice cream, those kind of applications. They had two effluent streams that they needed to treat. They already had aerobic treatment, but they were having difficulties with that treatment. It was difficult to get a proper treatment of the wastewater and to get to the discharge limits they needed to achieve. And it was at its capacity limit. So actually, the water treatment facility was being a limiting factor for the client to extend its production, to increase its production. And with that, so the system didn't do very well, but also high environmental costs was associated with the operation of this aerobic plant. The disposal of the aerobic surplus sludge, like I explained before, and the huge electrical consumption for aeration. So the client needed a solution to ensure factory site sustainability. So our solution and what we proposed on site was to have first an anaerobic reactor, like I explained, and we coupled in the biogas line the sulfothane for H2S removal and the MAM gas, and now the clients can actually integrate the biomethane into the gas grid and probably make money from GDF. So the aerobic plant that was already there, was already installed, now is no longer the main treatment, but is a post-treatment for a polishing step of the wastewater. And this way, they managed to get an effluent that is that has discharge limits, that has very low concentrations of different nutrients and organic matter and all these things that allow it to be discharged in the river. So just a second example, a little bit different. In this particular case, a client in South Africa from the dairy sector, a producer of cheese, they wanted to optimize biogas production in order to send the biogas into the boiler and use it to heat their installations. But they also wanted to reuse water. So in order to do that, what we proposed and what was installed in South Africa is a technology that we call Methane. And after the anaerobic step, we have a reverse osmosis. And that way, we managed to get a premium quality effluent that is fit to be reused in the plant, in the factory, as a processed water. And the nutrients that are separated in the reverse osmosis are high in nitrogen and phosphorus, have a much better quality to be themselves applied to a nutrient recovery applications and systems. So here just a picture of what it looks like. This is a picture from the digester. So this is a particular system in which you cannot, just looking at it, you cannot differentiate between water and bacteria, microorganisms are present there. After the UF membrane, that is the step used to separate the solids from the water, you can already see that the effluent is very clear, but still has some color. And in reverse osmosis, it is definitely clean water that fulfills all the effluent quality discharge limits. So I think I've said it twice, maybe. Really, Biothane is the focus and as focused and works a lot on innovation. We're always trying to improve our own technologies. We're always trying to see if we can do better, if we can have something new. And that's why this slide is called the Innovation Machine, with a picture of some of my colleagues. Not all of them are R&D, but directly or indirectly, everybody works for the same purpose. So everybody is in this innovation machine. We have an R&D dedicated team with research engineers and technicians. And we have a laboratory. I have a couple of pictures to show you just there. So here you can see a couple of pictures of our research facilities here in Delft in the Netherlands, with some basic analytic equipment needed to follow up and to provide services to our clients, but also some pilots that we can send on site to a client, for example, to test and get all the parameters we need for the design of the full scales. We also have some laboratory. We have, I think, 18 lab pilots and 6 industrial pilots. And this one here is also a pilot inside a container, which makes it much more easy to just plug and play when we arrive on site. So Biothane is historically very strong to develop new concepts through testing. And we do this going from a concept, an idea, reformulation of the way we operate something into pilot scale, both lab and industrial pilots, and then moving on to full scale. So just to wrap up this presentation, I don't want to take too long. I just have a little video that we prepared a couple of years ago, actually, for the development of one of our new technologies, and just to show you a bit how it works. I hope the video. Okay, and that's it on my part. And yeah, thank you again for inviting me, and I hope that the talk was not too long and boring.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you very much. It was very interesting, your communication. So I have only one question to you. Do you think with these solutions it's possible to have heat water in all houses in a city like 1 million inhabitants, or how many in a typical process, how many inhabitants can you serve?
To be honest, I don't have the numbers in my mind, especially because I work mainly in the industrial sector and the main projects I work on. But we, especially with the part of the biogas upgrade, we do have projects ongoing for municipal wastewater treatment plants. So I'm not sure about the number of inhabitants, but they usually have solids digesters for example, the treatment of the surplus of aerobic sludge, and that biogas produced can be upgraded and can be introduced in the grid.
Thank you, Anna. I think it's all, and CMR will continue with the parallel sections. Thank you very much.